went to La Vida Iglesia, and while we were there, we walked in. Everyone was really nice. They gave us a tour of the church, and they gave us coffee and like breakfast foods, and we sat in a room and we talked for about like 15 minutes just about ourselves and what to expect from the service. And at the beginning of the service, since the congregation was so small, they were able to recognize all the new faces in the crowd, so they asked us to introduce ourselves, which really made me feel welcome in the church. Despite having such a small congregation, it had a really strong sense of community, and it was clear to see because, like, even during the prayer requests at the beginning of the service, if you had any prayers that you'd like to be prayed for you, you would say that to the whole congregation. Everyone would pray for you together, which was really awesome. So after the service, the pastor invited the new people and then everyone that was like basically in the church, the whole church, back to his place to have lunch because they had a party the day before and they had a lot of leftovers. So when I went there, I got a ton of footage of the food that was absolutely amazing. And I got to talk to some of the kids that were there, and they were all really comfortable with each other. One of the people that really stuck out to me was Miguel. He told me a little bit about his story, and this is it.
I'm from Dominican Republic, being very poor, being in the United States for 26 years. It don't change my perspective as a human being. Mm-hmm. For me, it's a big blessing. I coming from no food to the country where you can choose what you want to eat. Yeah, it's a big blessing. Not a lot of people have that. Mm-hmm. So we have to be appreciative what you have. If you have a bike, thank God for that bike. And there's a reason for it that you and me don't know. You know, some people was born in here with pampers, car seat, everything. Mm-hmm. In my country, I see women giving birth on the floor because the poverty. That's what I'm saying. And that's why situation happen. Mm-hmm. It's no everything that happening in our life is in God's calendar. Everything. Coincidence. It's no.
Yes, for sure.
Everything. I learned something from you guys. You guys learned something from me. But struggles and tribulations come by themselves. Mm-hmm. Success, you have to work on it.
In a town that was very rural, and so there wasn't much diversity, and race wasn't really something that we talked about or worried about. When I went into high school, I went to a school that was much more diverse, and so I experienced race a lot more often and became more aware of its effects in society and in my life.
My experience with race in my family, we usually didn't really talk about race that much, but when we did, we never had that much prejudices, except like when it came to my grandmother, and she always had something to say about like black people in general, which I didn't agree with, but many of us never really spoke out against. But now seeing it in hindsight, I believe I should have spoken out.
My parents talked about it. They mainly taught us history and never to repeat the mistakes of the past. They never discouraged us from talking about it. They wanted us to be clear on the fact that race, while it impacted our experiences, it wasn't something that was necessarily a defining feature. It didn't make people different in and of itself. My brothers and I never really realized that that people really did differentiate on the basis of race until we were 13 or so and we were allowed to access the news. And then we saw that our perception was not the perception that a decent number of people had.
What I liked most about visiting St. Augustine's was walking around campus and talking to the students. Many of them said that what they liked most about going to an HBCU, and specifically St. Augustine's, was the strong sense of community. And you can really see that as you walked around campus, because even though we didn't fit in, everyone was welcoming and talked to us.
My general impression of St. Augustine's was that it was a community. People noticed we stood out and told us so, but they were also welcoming and fairly talkative. I appreciated both the welcome and that they didn't dance around the fact we obviously didn't go to school there. Oddly enough, I felt rather more comfortable there than at NC State because of those two factors.
When we went to St. Augustine, one of the first things that we did is that we kind of stopped by and talked to some people who were walking down campus, and we told them that it was our first time here, and we asked if there's any good places we should check out. So they ended up suggesting that we check out maybe some restaurants and places to get food. So we ended up going to the dining hall, and at the dining hall we met some really nice people. And there's one of them was named Equan, and he ended up showing us around campus. So he took us over to this central field in St. Augustine, and then they had like all of these like frat and sorority decorations, and we thought those were really cool because like that was kind of like a part of their culture there.
You get to meet more people, you know them personally, and if you need help, we're like a big old family, you know. We'll help each other, even though like we're from different places. We have people from the islands, Barbados, you know, the Virgin Islands. There's people from everywhere, people from up north, down south. We come from all walks of life, and like we use each other's slang. We like learn from each other, like the different ways people live their lives, and definitely the way that they were raised. Everybody's raised different, but we come together and like it's a family, you know. It's like just a new experience. You meet new people that's been through different things, and some of them you go through the same, some of them you go through different, but it lets you see, it gives you more perspective on a wider variety of topics, and it's nice. But the fact that it's small makes it easier, especially with the classes. With smaller classes, your professors are more hands-on with you. If you need like personal help, you can go see them at any time in the office hours. You know, while like if you're in a larger school like NC State, you have to go see a teacher's assistant, which might not have the same experience as a teacher, well, not a teacher but professor. You know,
Yeah.
I think it's all in not seeing color, but color is important because it makes us who we are. But I think it's more of us not being afraid because it's a stigma that's set by people that's older than us because the behaviors that we exhibit are not something that we are born with. It's something that's learned, you know. And with that being said, I feel like if it wasn't as precedented as it is and as like widely shared as it is, then it'd be much easier for us to come together. But the larger the stigma and like the longer it goes on and the more people teach their children about color and about how we're different and the different things and different stereotypes, we're not gonna be able to come together. But I feel like one thing that can bring everybody together is like music and a good party. You know, it's always gonna bring people together.
I don't think I've ever walked into a space and counted people who look like me. I can't say I've ever been in a space where that would have been something that crossed my mind at all. I went to Oberlin Baptist Church for their weekly Bible study on Wednesday night. I arrived extremely early, but automatically knew that I was going to be the only white person there. Even so, everybody I met and talked to was extremely welcoming and gracious towards me. Through conversations I had with multiple people, I learned about the history of Oberlin Road, how it was a distinctly black community 50 years ago. I also discovered the gradual process of gentrification that took over the neighborhood. One person I talked to, named Donna, said that white people, motivated by money, had inadvertently shattered the black community. She says that black people from Oberlin went all over different parts of Raleigh, and consequently lost their strong sense of community with each other. The members of Oberlin Baptist acknowledge that race exists, but condemn racism. Pastor Barry Young made it clear in the study that human beings are not made to be enemies of each other. He envisions a future when mankind unites and is free.
I am John Miller IV. I am the program coordinator here at the African American Cultural Center. I'm also an NC State alum of undergrad in 15 and master's in 17.
I am Brandon Lloyd. I am an agri-ecology major here at NC State, and I am a first-year student from Henderson, North Carolina.
I am LaBone Moses. I am a business executive, local currently to North Carolina. I'm not an NC State alum or student, but I was invited by Moses Alexander Green, and I sponsored the food today.
A friend of the Cultural Center.
I am a friend of the African Cultural Center.
Okay, wonderful. So how did you guys feel about what's on the table this time today?
I really enjoyed seeing white people here more than I thought I would. I'm just glad they came because I really feel like they needed to hear this. Like, of course, like, I love having these conversations within our own community, but knowing that they're getting this information too and maybe getting like some nuances that they wouldn't have thought of or their friends wouldn't have considered, I'm glad that that was that they were here to hear all of that. So maybe they can have a new perspective that they can bring to their tables.
Cut.
This is the first one that I've been to, and I didn't know that it was necessarily going to be all black students, so when I walked in I wasn't shocked by the mix. But as I understand from the students and from the head of the African American Cultural Center, it is intended as a internal black community discussion. I actually was impressed at the level of thought and passion that was expressed by the students, because I've been a student for a long time, and I did go to a predominantly white university where we fought to have our voices heard. And so I loved the ability to see black students speaking up about issues that affect their community in front of white students, women speaking up about issues that affect women in front of men, and privilege even speaking up about their perspective. Young white men who recognize they have privilege, saying, I have privilege, and here's my perspective. I think it's really important to understand, and I also enjoyed seeing the discourse. So it shouldn't make you feel uncomfortable or inhibited because someone talks about their privilege. It should open the door for more conversation. So I really, being that it's my first time here and I don't know what it's supposed to be, I enjoyed what I saw today.
I've been around the center, especially when the first one happened for What's on the Table. What I love about What's on the Table is it is a space typically for black students, or it's really students who are engaged in the Cultural Center, which tend to be black students, to really have a conversation about what is happening in their lives. And we facilitate it in a way that is centered in the black experience, but it's not limited to the black experience. So that's what I enjoy about what happened today, is that even though we were able to really capture this intersectional, multi-identity conversation, there was still a strong representation of the black experience. Which I think is the intention of it, is to say that we can talk about anything and everything, and we can talk about court cases and nominees, but we can also talk about On the Run 2 and Beyonce and Jay-Z and their relationship and what that means for the black community. So I'm never surprised when there is a mix. When there is a mix, it tends to be because of a class. But I'm always grateful for the lessons that I learned at the end. I do have a concern for black students who come and are regularly using the space and understand it to be black, and then when we do have a more mixed crowd, what is being held back? What is being negotiated in the space? But so I as an administrator, I struggle with that, but I'm also grateful for the space and for all who come in.
Gotcha. I will say also that I noticed discomfort in the room. I noticed discomfort from black students, and I noticed discomfort from white students. And I actually, this is going to sound very strange, but on a real world level, I like that. I think that now is a great time for you all to feel the discomfort.